So we have a theist, Brian, New York, pronouns are he, him, and you've got something to prove.
Well, I'm a pantheist. I'm not really a theist in the traditional sense. I'm an occultist. I practice demonolatry. I worship demons.
Okay, so I'm confused, and I'm going to give you plenty of time here to explain stuff. You're a pantheist, and yet you worship demons, which to me seems to be in conflict with pantheist. But you're claiming you're a pantheist, an occultist, and a demonologist. Before I ask you to reconcile, because pantheism is this notion essentially that the universe is co-equal or is God. Demons instead are something separate. But what is it that you think you can demonstrate and prove?
Well, demons, the original meaning of a demon is a god or a power, a spiritual power. And they have a personality. They are conscious. And what I'm bringing to the discussion is that there are protocols that if you implement them, if you follow them, the spirits will manifest themselves to you. You will experience the supernatural or the paranormal.
Okay.
And I don't agree with Christians.
I'm going to pause. I'm going to pause you here for a second. We gave you 30 seconds to describe what it is that you're claiming. I'm not sure if you're like eating something, but I mean, it almost sounds like you're okay. But so now you've said that demons are God's power, spiritual power, their personality, they're conscious, and there are protocols you can implement and follow where the spirits will manifest. What are those protocols? And before we, I want to make sure that, so you also went on to say that this manifestation would be the supernatural. I don't know how you can demonstrate the supernatural, but first let's demonstrate the manifestation part, because if you can demonstrate that there's some demon personality and how to manifest it, that would be a useful start before we determine whether or not it's supernatural. So I'll give you another 30 seconds to start talking about the manifest or the protocols to implement. How do we do this?
Well, if you're not going to meditate and practice all of the rituals, but as an individual that's just a truth seeker, that you want to see if this is true, one way to do it is there are radios that are you could say tuned or to scan through all of the channels, and they scan through all the channels automatically, and that allows the spirits to form words and sentences, and they will begin to answer your questions. So that's one of the easiest ways to establish contact with the spirits. These aren't necessarily demons, but you can establish contact with spirits or non-biological conscious
okay.
And as Matt asked you, Brian, how do you demonstrate this? I mean, that's the question that Matt has already asked, and you're saying that there's these evidences, and yet how do you demonstrate that? Because that would be fascinating if you had video evidence of such connection with demons or spirit worlds. And yet, I used to be a Christian who believed that you could cast demons out of people and that they would manifest in certain ways by screaming or vomiting or whatever. But I've come to believe that was just humans being humans. And so I think Matt and I both would be fascinated if you had evidence that supported these hypotheses and that you had demonstrations to show us. But what do you have in that regard other than some kind of a radio, which I couldn't follow that at all?
Yeah, I can I can upload some evidence on my channel. I don't have that many videos on my channel. I have no videos of what I do occult-wise, because when you begin to broadcast that in the open, if you're doing it for the money or you're doing it for fame, you don't have access to certain demons or spirits. So I don't broadcast what I do.
Well, that's really convenient question, Brian.
Like they go hide? Is that what you're saying? They don't want to be shown to the public? Is that what you're saying? Is that what you're implying? That if you go public, they hide?
There are laws. There are cosmic laws that say it's not they don't encourage communication between the worlds or the.
Okay, Brian, how do you know what these laws are, and how do you prove what these laws are?
Well, I don't know what all the laws are.
How do you know what any of the laws are?
Well, I have experience with the demons, with the spirit. Okay. And they provide me.
How do you demonstrate to me what those laws are? Because how can I tell the difference between whether or not what you say is true or whether you're just making shit up? How can I tell?
Well, right. You would have to experience what I experienced, and I can provide you with the protocols in order.
Sorry, Brian. Brian, stop. I asked you for the protocols, and what you described is not a protocol that is worth testing. You talked about a radio that can scan through all the channels. First of all, I'm guessing we're talking about a regular radio that can scan through a variety of frequencies, and you say it does this automatically. And this allows the spirits to form words and sentences and answer questions. How do you know when you hear something that it is in fact a spirit, and how do you know it is answering a question?
Because they answer your question. If you're wearing a green shirt and you ask,
where can I go see the evidence for this? Because if there's a radio that I can have tune and I can ask, can you do this right now? Can you ask a spirit a question?
Well, right now, if I were to turn on one of these radios, I might be able to right now without performing any.
You might be able to. You might be able to, or you would. What's the likelihood that you would be able to turn your radio on, ask a question, and get a spirit to answer?
Well, right now they're not. I don't feel any spirits around me right now. I don't have any.
Okay. When's the next time you think you're going to feel spirits, and why don't you record that?
Well, I can provide you with some evidence.
Why haven't you done it already? See, you're calling in to tell me what you could do. Why haven't you done any of this shit already? Why haven't you gone before scientific investigative processes or journals and said, I can tune this radio, I can ask the spirits questions, and I can get an answer? Yeah. Why is it in the entire history of the world, no one has demonstrated to the scientific community that they can do what you claim you do?
The scientists, unfortunately, are not really interested in what the supernatural.
I'd like to thank you, Brian, for doing something that the last caller wouldn't do, but then I'm going to call bullshit. Well, and the reason is this: sir, I asked the last caller, okay, why the scientific community didn't accept his findings, and he wouldn't even hazard a guess. I asked you why you haven't demonstrated this to the scientific community, and you did one better, which is you claim the scientific community is biased against it, which is a lie.
Okay. Hey, okay, don't believe then. That's fine. Don't believe.
Okay.
You won't the experience. You won't have the experience. You won't know what reality truly is. Why?
Okay.
Why do that?
And it'll be your fault, Brian, because you refuse to demonstrate it, and you want to claim that anybody who doesn't believe you is biased against it. And the scientific community, which is only about investigating and learning about the world, doesn't have an interest in it, which is a damn lie. Because if you could do what you claim you could do, the scientific community would be overwhelmingly, enthusiastically in favor of demonstrating that and accepting that truth.
Brian, why would you call a show that by every measure, Brian, listen, you call a show, you must know what this show's about. and you know that we're asking for evidence of any claim, and you've got these outrageous claims of demons being, you're not listening, Brian. Brian, you can't listen and talk at the same time. We've given you chances to talk. Why would you call a show that requires evidence and call in with no kind of evidence and present outlandish claims that you say you can perform with a radio, and yet when we ask you for that evidence, you start throwing out at us that we're not ever going to know the reality then because we won't believe. You're asking us to believe something that's outrageous. What?
I don't want you to believe anything. I'm not a religionist. I don't want you to believe anything.
What do you want?
Hello?
Why did you call?
I actually agree. I actually agree with you that we may not have. There may not be life after death. I don't really know who or what these demons or spirits are, or these non-biological entities are. I don't really.
You don't even know that they're non-biological entities.
Yeah, you can't even prove they exist, Brian.
No.
We've asked you for just that.
Please, I understand your anger. I understand.
There's no anger here. What there is, Brian, stop. I'm going to mute you so that I don't have to say shut up.
We're
again.
Incredulous.
There's no anger here. We've given you an opportunity to present a methodology, and what we got was a line of crap about a radio that can't be a methodology, conclusions which you cannot follow from that, because if you hear what you think are voices on the radio, even if they were actual voices, you don't know that they're non-human entities. You don't even know that they're real. And when we ask you for the methodology, you claim, well, you have to do this and this, and why can't you demonstrate the science? Well, the scientific community is biased against it, which is a lie. Either you can demonstrate the truth of what you're saying or you can't. Which is it? Can you demonstrate that it's true or not?
Hello? I can't hear you now. I can't.
Can you demonstrate that it's true or not?
Yes, I can. But I saw a video. Right now, I'm here on YouTube, and I saw a video that said of your channel, of your show. And and I can show you how you can generate the evidence for yourself. You don't need me to do it. I can show you how.
Brian, I asked you for that at the beginning of the call. So when I asked you, can you demonstrate the truth of what you're saying? The words that literally came out of your mouth was, I saw a video on YouTube. Well, I don't need to see a video on YouTube. Videos on YouTube don't prove anything. And then you say that you can show us how to demonstrate this, but you have not provided a methodology that will actually demonstrate it. Because if it would actually demonstrate it, then it would demonstrate it to scientific inquiry.
Okay, sir, I'm going to do that for you, just for you. I'm going to take the time and the effort, and I'm going to make the effort to present all of the evidence to you through the internet. If I could invite you to one of our circles, one of our seances, where you could experience the spirits. But
how are your seances different from seances I've actually been to?
This is different.
How do you know? No, this is the problem with you, Brian. This is the problem with you and the way you think. I just asked how yours was different from other ones I've been to, and you say it's different. You can't know that.
Different.
You don't know what I've been to.
You know how I know that? You're probably saying that you probably went to a spiritualist or the spiritist, Alan Kardec.
No, Brian. The honest response to Matt would have been to say, "Tell me about the ones you've been to, Matt, and then I can tell you whether mine are the same or different." But you assumed that you knew what he'd been to.
Yeah, this is the thing. My co-host here is a genius who picked up on this immediately, and you followed it up with saying, well, you probably went to a spiritualist. No, you don't get to conclude that you know something because you inferred that I probably did X. The correct thing for you to respond with was, I don't know. What have you been to? What have you done? So here's the thing, Brian.
You're right.
You go figure out an actual test methodology that will demonstrate this to me. And then instead of just bringing it to me because I'm nobody, go bring it to Scientific American, go bring it to the James Randi Educational Foundation, go bring it to some sort of investigative body, and then we can talk. Because as it stands right now,
I want to.
As it stands, what is it?
I want that, man.
What?
They run away from it. From that.
You're full of shit, sir. You
No,
are
they're not
completely
running away
full of
from
shit,
it.
sir. Nobody's running away from it. You are the one that's running away. You are the one that is claiming to have justified belief in something that you can't demonstrate to anybody else. The JREF sat around for years investigating these claims all the time. How dare you suggest that actual scientists are running away from you? It's beyond. Go do your damn research, post it on YouTube, make yourself famous, get it to somebody. But if you're going to sit around and lie about whether or not the rest of us are actually interested, I have no more interest in talking to you. Ask your demons what number I'm thinking of. All right. It's so funny, and we see this all the time. Here's the truth. The first caller is in exactly the same boat. The caller who thinks the earth is young has to think that the scientific community just doesn't have any interest or honesty in the age of the earth, that they've bought into an old earth and that they are doing anything, including ignoring good evidence, in order to maintain their view that the earth is old. They can't come up with a reason for it, which is why Charles avoided that.
Yeah, but they're looking for a conspiracy against it, that to justify their lack of evidence. I mean, they have to know that all we're doing in this show, all you've been doing for years, is asking people to provide evidence for the things they believe.
Yep.
And when they can't do that, they have to come up with a conspiracy that is preventing that from coming to the light.
Yep. And in the case of our previous caller, you have him saying, well, you know, you can get this radio and you can listen to this and you'll hear the voices of non-bodied or non-human bodied agents. Well, no, how do you demonstrate that? Even if you heard something. So whether or not you hear something is a big issue, because there's a thing called electronic voice phenomenon, which is nonsense and has been demonstrated to be nonsense, but people tend to think they hear things. But even if you did hear a message, how do you show that message is coming from a supernatural realm or a spirit realm or a demon realm rather than just people? How do you know you're not being pranked or punked?
Back in the day, we had Ouija boards. As Christians, we thought they were demonic. So, you know,
exactly.
Here we are again.
Yeah, it's Ouija boards, it's radios, it's all of this. And none of these individuals have bothered to take a moment to think about the test methodology that is required to demonstrate the truth of what they become convinced of. Yep. They became convinced that because, oh, this is spooky, this is weird, it must be spirits. Well, you don't have a causal connection evidentially to show that what you're actually engaging with is spirits at all. And so then they have to come up with, well, scientists run away. Well, the JREF runs away. Or, well, if you try to do it for fame, there are cosmic rules that prevent the demons from...
The demons won't show up.
The other one. I have zero interest in your post hoc rationalizations for why you failed to do the thing that you say you can do.
Yeah.
But